kind of switch topics and dive deeper into this concept of just re-ranking deeper. I guess
Hmm.
probably another concern people probably have, in addition to obviously your paper is showing that not like it doesn't even perform better, but probably people are also thinking about the latency associated with doing
Yeah.
this. So maybe thinking about just this vision of like really deep re-ranking with a cross encoder. Maybe you have, say, like 16 GPUs that all have their cross encoder on it, and so you're just
Hmm.
parallelizing the batches, and that's maybe the system vision. I'm just curious, like, what you think about the system vision of. I think in the paper you call it like full scoring with re-rankers. Sorry, I mixed up the particular
Yeah,
phrase you
no
used to
worries.
describe this. Yeah.
No worries. Yeah. So I guess like the full scoring that we did, uh, the full scoring experiments we did were more sort of say like, okay, if I really push it to the limit, um, how did this ranking? Because we were measuring recall at 10, and so when you measure recall at 10, maybe the documents are like in 50s or something, and it'll still make it in the content. There's always this sort of dilemma when you choose a K recall at K. Is it close or far? And so we were sort of the full retrieval thing is let's downsample the corpus to around 10,000 documents. And so the way we downsampled is we put the golds in and then we just randomly sample 10,000. Like, no hard negative mining, anything. We just like randomly picked it. And so there's a
Mhm.
lot more opportunity for like just easy quote unquote documents. And then so we scored everything with the ranker. And then basically with that list, we basically, as we increase the K, we're basically trying to see in the set, basically, how the recall goes up. So, for example, if in the first 10 documents of the first scoring, how many gold documents is it? And then as you go to 50, how many should, so basically it should be a non increasing line. And the better you are, then in theory, you should basically jump up, right? And then flatten off. But, well, when we actually plotted it out, the rankers really do not do well. I think on the academic, I don't remember the exact result. I think on the academic set, we had, for context, we had an academic set and an enterprise Databricks proprietary data set. And on one of them, I think BM25 killed them. Like it was like old school techniques for really destroying these, powerful cross encoders that were not, they were both open source and the like state of the art closed source ones. Like back when Voyage was it, doing things and Gina. Um, and so they are really like, it was really surprising. And so that was the story of the full sort of retrieval, if you will, with the crossing coders.
Yeah, the BM20. I took a look at talking about Omar earlier and his new work at MIT on oblique bench, and that's one
Yeah.
that has a score of 0 with BM25. Get get that out of the way.
Exactly. BM25 is a weird thing because I remember back in when we were working on this, we were like, BM25 is either like the baseline everyone sort of says is like not good, or it beats all of the new Denson, like all the new techniques randomly. It's really a flip of the coin of whether it excels or it's like zero.
Yeah, I think like with like the bright reasoning intensive retrieval, or maybe even like when I don't know, like browse comp plus, like when you're evaluating retrievers in the sort of like search agent function calling loop, I think those may also still be kind of keyword biased. But I think maybe with these newer generation benchmarks that are sort of like harder on purpose, is maybe like
Mm.
less BM25. But anyway, sorry, I'm getting off topic.
No, yeah, no, totally. I totally get it too. And that's the other thing also like and we'll talk about this later too, is like I feel like constructing good benchmarks that are representative is like such a hard thing nowadays. Because like there's always a thing, right? Like humanity's last exam and then or like humanity's last X and then it's gonna be humanity's last X and it's just gonna go on and on and on as these benchmarks get saturated. It's like, are we really measuring things usefully? But yeah, maybe we can talk about that later.
Yeah. So I hadn't realized that the paper was doing 10,000 randomly sampled documents to then re-rank. And so I guess there's an interesting sort of interaction here between the first stage retrieval and the second stage re-ranker where, I mean, obviously people probably, and even in these, we talk about BM25 or vector search, and like in some benchmarks, vector search is really great, whereas BM25 is really great. And that's like a huge confounding with how you're then evaluating the re-ranker because it could start at like 70 and then like say it's like 70 out of 100 on some metric. It could lift
Yeah.
it from like 70 to 80, whereas it could lift it from like, say, like, I don't know, 20 to 60. And you're like, oh, wow, what a huge gain. And so there's such
Mhm.
a confounding, I feel like, with doing these sort of controlled experiments to understand the effectiveness of the cross encoder with that first stage.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think so. Yeah, that makes sense. Um, It all depends. I think when you say that, I'm thinking about how basically we had these results with the like I guess like this is the scaling retrieval stuff too. So it, top K and then we rank, and basically for a lot of the dense retrievers and even some of the BN25 ones, we had the up down sort of pattern. But then there was one data set. It's been oh my God, it's been almost 2 years since I wrote this paper, but I think it was we had BM25 and basically it was so weak that basically the re-ranker actually consistently helped it. And it's sort of what you said, how there's like so many confounding things of like, how the retriever does first will impact, like I guess the distribution that like the anchor sees and whether it can actually help or not, etc. So that's like an interesting observation, I think.
Yeah, I guess there's one other idea I really like is like a database person, and I don't know, I don't really like love this idea because we're like a vector database and we love the
Yeah,
database part, but this kind of vision of like you don't have an index, you just throw like imagine throwing like every object into cross encoders for every query. You don't need the
yeah.
inverted index, you don't need the vector index.
Yeah, I hope Nvidia starts, getting those GPU flops higher and higher to make that feasible.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's definitely something appealing for that for sure.
And I guess you maybe don't even need like B tree indexes. Like, because you could you handle like structured data that way too? Like, could you handle all database indexes by just throwing all of the data at these? Well, I guess not, because you still need the. This is kind of something I want with this topic. I kind of want to talk about this like full scoring, where it's maybe a list wise re-ranker, and I think that vision
Okay.
it's just like an abuse of like transformer compute, but like that idea of like the entire database goes into the
Yeah,
model and
yeah. That is. I mean, like list-wise stuff is so cool. It's so cool because you just have so much information, and honestly, like, and we can talk about it later. It's like the analysis between like list-wise versus like cross-encoder versus like it's almost like the way I thought of it as like a pyramid of like how like try and make how easy or not make the task. So like as opposed to like the I guess the pre-indexed like corpus, it's like finding that vector that can like any query comes in, it'll like magically encode that query such that it's in the same vector space. Super hard task. Cross encoder, it's even still, even if you have a querying document, you have to output some arbitrary score such that it's less it's more relevant than less relevant things, and less than more relevant, and it's like even that's a hard task. List wise, in my opinion, it's like the most natural. It's just like I don't really want to assign it to some real, some 0 to 1 score. I'll just be like, no, this is better than that. This is better than that. So I hope that vision comes true. If we can just list wise rank everything.
yeah, well, saving the topic for later. I think this kind of like pairwise and setwise and too like the intermediate on that